Hello and welcome to Cooking with Cleo. Today we are making a very special recipe. My grandmother is allergic to garlic, but she didn't develop this allergy until later in life. She suffered from toxic shock syndrome, and after that she became allergic to garlic. So I'm making this recipe. I've never tried it. She just told me how to do it, so we're gonna see if I do well. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. First things first, you're gonna need, this is called a boning knife, okay? This is what it looks like, beautiful. And we're gonna open up this package of meat. Actually before we do that, we're gonna grab out garlic. So she says she uses like basically a whole clove of garlic. So we're going to go ahead and take apart this clove. And I'm gonna bring you down so you can see that better. Okay, so as you can see, we're gonna take apart these cloves of garlic and just, we have so many. We gotta get the skins off. Cleo is at this stage in her development.
Full disclaimer, I literally hate peeling garlic. It's like the worst. But I did learn something, not from culinary school, but from YouTube, to crush the garlic with the side of your knife. In culinary school, they wouldn't let you do this because they wanted perfect cuts every single time. So you'd have to peel the garlic and it'd take forever.
Okay, so now we are taking a pan and we are going to bring it up to medium-high heat, and we're covering the base of the pan in oil. Okay, so for this next part, I've got my garlic peeled here, and don't worry, I am gonna put the meat on the cutting board with the garlic, but the garlic is going into the meat. So for all you people who might be like, oh my gosh, Madison, you've ruined it. It's not ruined. Now this is about 3.25 pounds of meat. Okay, we're gonna take that out of Cleo's reach. And my grandmother said we're gonna coat it in salt and pepper, but first we're poking the meat. Okay, so we put like a little hole in it. You can see a little hole. And we're gonna take this garlic and just stick it into the hole. Okay.
And you just keep doing that around the whole roast, all of the meat, and just keep stabbing and stuffing. Now in the prepared pan with the oil, we're just going to get some color on both sides of the meat. We are by all means not cooking the meat all the way through because it's going to finish in the oven. So we're just browning both sides here. While our meat finishes browning, we just begin cutting the potatoes. I'm doing about a large dice here, maybe a little bit bigger on the potatoes. And then we will be dicing some carrots and onions as well. Now we just take a second to look at the meat and make sure everything is going smoothly. Look at that color, it is looking beautiful. So we're going to turn it over and try to get some nice coloring on the other side there. Now I'm just taking about a half of an onion and I am chopping that up and throwing it into our potatoes. I decided to keep the carrots whole, and then I put some oil, salt, and pepper onto the rest of the vegetables and toss them, making a huge mess, but that's okay. We are almost ready to pop the roast into the oven. The meat has gotten nice and brown on both sides, so we're just lifting the meat out of the pan and then putting it into the pan that will be going into the oven. And you'll see that I'm going to pour the oil off into the pan as well. in order to keep some moisture in there. I do deglaze the pot and then add that liquid back in. To deglaze a pan, you just put water, vinegar, or wine would be especially delicious. I don't keep wine in my home, but white wine would be so good on this. And you would just put it in the pan when it's hot and then scrape off all of the excess brown that you see on the bottom, and then you just pour it over. And then I put the vegetables into my roasting pan. This was probably a fatal mistake because, as you can see, it is very overcrowded. The reason I did this is because I wanted to do a one pot meal, but that did not work with this recipe. It ended up taking a lot longer to cook than I had hoped. But we cover it with tin foil, as my grandmother told us to do in her recipe, and we just place it in the oven at 350. Her recipe said for an hour, and I'm not sure if it's because it is probably because I overcrowded the pan. It took 2 hours to cook in the oven, which was a lot. And I ended up having to go back and take out the vegetables, and it was just kind of a disaster. That is why I called this killer, because it killed me on the inside a little bit. Here I am in my pajamas to give you this honest review. I was editing before Cleo and Nathan woke up this morning. So, my honest review of this recipe is it was really good. Next time I made it, and I didn't take a picture because we had dinner guests, and they were missionaries from our church, and they were supposed to eat at 6, and I did not serve them until 7. It was very embarrassing because they were here for an hour just waiting for this roast to be done. It was so frustrating. So yes, next time I would not put vegetables in the same pan. And I knew this when I was looking at that pan. It stressed me out. I was like, oh, you shouldn't do this. But I was like, oh, but I don't want to clean up another pan. No, I should have listened. I always tell Nathan when cooking, like, go with what your heart says, or you have to feel it in your heart. I felt it in my heart that was not right, and I did it anyways. So that was my mistake. But the recipe was really good. The garlic was super delicious in the roast. It really added like a punch. And next time I think I'd actually cook the garlic a little bit before stabbing it in. I don't think it cooked as well. But that is my honest review of this recipe. It turned out okay. I loved the color on the pork. I think that was really good. And the pork was very juicy and tender, and I feel like sometimes people overcook pork, and in this recipe it wasn't overcooked. It was like perfectly done, so that was really awesome too. And that is my honest review of this recipe. If you give it a try, let me know in the comments, or if you just enjoyed watching me fail, awesome.